Hey everyone, welcome back to the layout once again. Today, another layout update, and I actually have some pretty interesting changes to share with you. So we'll just jump right into it here. What we're looking at right now is the top of the grade. So this is like the one far end of the layout. This is the top of the grade at Belmont. If I turn this way, you can kind of see the crest of the grade there. It drops back down grade, goes around the end of the peninsula there, and then on the other side returns back this way, and you can actually see the horseshoe curve over there. That train is facing downgrade going downhill. And what you'll notice up here is that there actually used to be another track on the outside of the main line you see there. That was a little siding. What I've done now is I've actually taken out that turnout and I've essentially just dragged that track over here, and we now have a track going through the backdrop there. The reason being, what we're looking at right now is the newly rearranged reverse loop up here at the top of the grade at Belmont. So here's another look at it. So way down there where it sort of drops off, towards the end of the peninsula, there is a turnout where these two tracks emerge, because around the curve down there, it's actually just a single track. So there's a turnout about right there. So then that opens up into this big reverse loop here. You'll see it splits off in either direction. One's going to go that way where I have a planned tunnel. That was originally going to be a tunnel anyway, but I've sort of reimagined what it'll look like. But this rearrangement doesn't really affect that scenery too much. We have another track here that goes through the wall, so I'm going to have to find a way to hide this. It's likely just going to be a berm on either side with some trees. But we'll get to that later on in future updates. What I'm more interested in now is just explaining to you how this works. So now you can see there's a big loop. I excuse the horrendous look back here. This is obviously not finished and it looks all cluttered, and it looks kind of poorly thought out too with all the pipes and things, but I assure you we've had no problems, and everything's accessible, so don't worry, don't need to tell me. But the loop goes back this way. You can see it, and it comes back and returns into the room. You'll notice that I have some bench work up here because the original plan was to have a staging yard up on top and one down below here where this enormous mess is. So this is the top of the grade, or one end of the layout here, and we were going to have a stub end staging yard that came this way and then sort of curved towards the camera here and just sort of butted up against the inside of the wall you see right there. So that would be the upper staging yard there. It would just be stub end, but you'll notice this is a pretty small room back here. And as I got further along in construction, I've been very skeptical of what we'd be able to get out of that in terms of train length and car storage. So I've just sort of streamlined operations, and instead of having the staging yards in here, what we're going to do is utilize this reverse loop all the way at the top of the grade. There's also a reverse loop at the bottom of the grade. It's actually right there. You can see a DPU unit there. It's this lower track. That's a reverse loop. Got the coal train on it right now. And we'll see how that looks, or how that works in a bit. And so along with the reverse loop up here, the reverse loop on the lower level, that's how we get trains turned around on either end of the layout. And instead of doing stub end staging in a staging room, instead what I'm going to do is basically take the main yard that we have right here and just sort of rearrange it slightly so that it's just a visible staging yard. So as a lot of you guys probably already knew, I actually had a reverse loop already installed on the upper level here, and this is the end of the reverse loop I was talking about earlier. So we're down on the other end of the peninsula here. This is where the new reverse loop opens up. I actually had a reverse loop originally. There was a curved turnout right here. You can see it went through the backdrop there to the other side. And you can see that's what we're looking at here. This is the other side of the tunnel, and what originally happened, as you can tell by the cork roadbed, is that this track out here, where we see this grain car, originally went through the backdrop and connected to the other side we were just looking at. So one positive side effect of moving that reverse loop to the top of the grade and scrapping the staging yard is that now we can take this track and turn it into a proper siding. So now I just took that curved turnout from the other side and very conveniently placed it over on this side of the peninsula, and now we have a pretty decently sized passing siding up here. And in theory I could have worked this in with this original reverse loop, but really in order to move the turnout back to this point rather than further this way, I would need to push back some of the scenery, and that wouldn't work with the tunnel scenery we were going to have here originally. So now I've been able to move that turnout down a bit, making this a worthwhile and usable siding of significant length. And what I'm going to do is scrap the tunnel on this side. This is just going to be a rock cut and scenery. The other side will still be a tunnel. It'll be the abandoned south portal of Belmont Tunnel, just like the prototype, so that works out nicely. And I will be keeping this tunnel liner I've built and the tunnel portal, which you probably saw on the other side, just sort of laying up against the rock cut there. That'll also still be able to be used, but now I don't have to worry about completing the tunnel on this side. So with all that in mind, hopefully I didn't bore you too much, I just want to sort of demonstrate how this would work in this new operating scheme. It's sort of simplified and streamlined and allows me to run trains from point to point to the full extremities of the layout just as one person, or if we did eventually have an operating session, I think it would still work handily as well. So we're going to take this coal train that's parked down here in the now staging yard. You can see it just poking through the wall there. We're going to run it all the way up the grade, eventually up here to Belmont over to the right, and send it through the reverse loop just to show you how that would work. So here we can see the train. It's coming through the reverse loop right now. You can vaguely see that way back in the staging room. It's currently making its way into the staging yard here, and this is where the train would park from its return journey. So let's say it's coming in right now. The train crew would drop it off here, it would park, and then someone else would come in and take over this train. So right now it's beginning its journey, starting in the staging yard, and it is now heading upgrade towards Belmont. So the train's now heading out of St. Paul on the lower level. You can see that is the one end of the yard all the way down there at the far wall. That's the engine facility. Coal train's now sneaking its way upgrade here, about to pass through Newport Junction, which is over on the right with all those industries. So here we get a good look at the train coming around the curve there. It's right underneath the horseshoe curve at Crawford Hill up above, so we'll be heading through there shortly. Right now we're still on the lower level. Now the train is passing Newport Junction, and in just a few moments it'll actually pass over itself up there. And once it goes through the wall right there, and eventually that'll be hidden, it'll then head over to the upper level. We'll take a look at that in just a second. And again, here we are on the opposite side of Newport Junction now, and this is where the train heads over where it just went through on the other side of the backdrop. You can see how the train's heading up grade. We already have quite a bit of elevation difference as it passes through this same spot. Here we get a look at the train. It's on the middle track there. That's not a reverse loop. The ones above and below are reverse loops. This one here actually just connects the lower level and the upper level because there's no helix on the layout. So the train now rolls into Crawford, Nebraska. This is the main, not main scene, but the most complete scene right now. And right where that NS Tier 4 unit's sitting is actually our helper pocket. So during normal operations, we have a couple of locomotives sitting there in BNSF colors, and on heavy trains, like loaded coal trains, which this one technically should be, I just don't have coal loads. So on a longer train or one with loads, we would put on helpers, and they would help all the way to the top of the grade at Belmont, which we will see in just a second. And here's a good look of our train now heading upgrade and going into the new passing siding. Or really this is the main line portion. That turnout was originally there. Again, that was a part of the old reverse loop. But now these two trains can pass each other going in the same direction because they're no longer on a reverse loop. And here our train is just now approaching this end of the new passing siding. And this will eventually be the site of a grade crossing as well. So here the train reaches the top of the grade. I kind of forgot to throw the turnout, so the train's coming up the near track. It's going to go through the new portion of the reverse loop. And we can see that right here where the two tracks split off from each other. So this train right now, still heading up grade. It's going to head through the reverse loop there. Or through the wall, I should say. And right at this moment, both ends of the train can be seen in the same view. Some of that will be taken away when I add the tunnel portal that'll sort of run parallel to the wall there. Also depends on train length. And we'll have a little bit of a view divider between the two legs of the track where they split off right here. So anyway, that's the end of our train's run. As you can see, it's now facing the other way, pointing downgrade, and ready for someone else to take over, take it all the way down the layout, and eventually it would then terminate once again in the staging yard down here to the lower left. So that's a not so brief summary of the changes I've made. That's all I've been up to recently, so no scenery to update you on. So yeah, that's all I've got. Again, thanks for watching, stay tuned, and I will see you guys next time.